Wind Power and Wind Rider are brand new abilities introduced in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and I decided to build a team around them to see what sort of potential they might have in doubles. If you all enjoy the narrated competitive Pokemon Scarlet and Violet battling content, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, double check to make sure you're subscribed. A lot of people who watch my content are not subscribed. And how are you not going to be subscribed to a YouTuber, because you can't even threaten to unsubscribe if you aren't subscribed in the first place? And very big shoutouts to those who left a super thanks on my recent content. It's a feature YouTube has where you can show support to content creators you really enjoy and want to support financially. It's of course entirely optional. Like, just watching my content means so much. Like, you're gonna watch my content over everybody else. Like, you're so sweet. So as you can see by my team, we are packing Kilowattrel and Brambleghast, the Pokemon that do have these wind abilities. And what these abilities do, just to keep it short and sweet, if you're hit by a wind type move, and this is like a new category of moves they introduced in Scarlet and Violet, you either get charged up in Kilowattrel's case, doubling your electric type damage for the turn, or you get +1 attack in Brambleghast's case. And both of these effects can be set with Tailwind as well, so Tailwind also works with these moves, but only if it's set on your side of the field. If the opponent uses Tailwind, it doesn't count. Just want to make that clear. We also have Jumpluff, which synergizes really well with the rest of the team, and we have Torkoal because we want to activate Jump plus Chlorophyll ability just so we can get really fast Tailwinds. And then last but not least, we have the Broken Paradox Pokemon, because we are playing Series 2 VGC, and Paradox Pokemon are currently legal, so we had to round out this gimmick team with some power and Flutter Mane and Great Tusk, just to give us a fighting chance. So that's the team we're using for this video. And my first opponent today is packing a lot of Paradox Pokemon themselves in Flutter Mane, Iron Bundle, and they also have Iron Hands and Brute Bonnet, so they have 4 Paradox Pokemon, and they're also packing Gastronaut and Garganacl. So that's my opponent's team for this battle, and without further ado, let's get into the battles. I am taking a selfie with my shiny Jumpluff, and it might seem kind of weird to have a selfie with Jumpluff when my team is built around Brambleghast and Kilowattrel, but Jumpluff is low-key the MVP of this team and the reason why, everything, works together. So I lead off with Flutter Mane and my Torkoal, as my opponent's going to lead off with Iron Hands and Iron Bundle. So we're going to activate Photosynthesis, get a special attack increase because we're actually on modest Flutter Mane. We are not timid Flutter Mane. I think that modest Life Orb Flutter Mane is underrated, and I know that having Sash with timid is safe, but don't underestimate Flutter Mane's damage potential. People don't use it to its full potential is what I'm trying to say. So my opponent's gonna go for the manual electric terrain, which is kind of cool to see because Iron Bundle is very, very fast, so we can set up that electric terrain for the Iron Hands, giving them the attack and speed boost, so all of our abilities are activated right now. I switch in my Brambleghast because I expect my opponent to go for an Icy Wind to activate Wind Power, right?
Nope.
My opponent actually goes for, Thunder Punch and nearly one-shots me even though I resist it because Iron Hands is crazy. So now we're going to both use our Terrestrialization. I'm going to Terrestrialize to a Fairy, they're going to Terrestrialize to a Grass type. And I'm going to go for a Shadow Sneak here with my Brambleghast, do around half to the Iron Bundle, breaking a Focus Sash, which I assume it has because it doesn't have the booster energy. They're going to go for their Icy Wind, giving me the Wind Rider because a lot of people do not know what Wind Rider does. So they'll just go for Wind type moves into Brambleghast, giving you a free +1, and Icy Wind doesn't even break my sub. So I can go for a Dazzling Gleam as well. Terra Fairy, Life Orb, Photosynthesis, Dazzling Gleam finishes off the Iron Bundle and does do a decent chunk to a likely Assault Vest Iron Hands. And Iron Hands is the bulkiest Pokemon, so the fact that it did 30% is pretty impressive. So they're gonna go for a Thunder Punch here to break my substitute, so thankfully the substitute didn't get broken by the Icy Wind, but Flutter Mane has a really good special defense stat, so Flutter Mane can take an Icy Wind unless it's Life Orb or it's modest, so yeah. It's really nice. So they're gonna bring in their own Flutter Mane, and they're gonna get a Photosynthesis because of my Sunlight into Speed, which is kind of scary, but I am Shadow Sneak with my Brambleghast, so I'm just gonna go for Protect here just to scout out and see if they're gonna go for Protect, but they actually don't go for Protect, and then they just let me hit them with Shadow Sneak, and they're not sashing the Flutter Mane, so we're able to knock out the Flutter Mane with Brambleghast, and Brambleghast is kind of low-key anti-meta in the current format because Icy Wind can get absorbed from Flutter Mane and Iron Bundle with the Wind Rider ability. So now they're gonna bring in the Gastrodon, and I'm gonna bring out my Torkoal. And Brambleghast also works against Iron Hands because of its, dual stab. It actually doesn't hit Brambleghast for too much damage, unless it gets Quark Drive +1 attack, Electric Terrain boost Wild Charge. Then it might do a little bit of damage, but you do resist its dual stab, so it's actually a decent matchup into a lot of the popular Paradox Pokemon. So here, a Terra Fairy Helping Hand Dazzling Gleam one-shots Gastrodon, which is absolutely insane. Flutter Mane is unfair. And I just wanted to use Flutter Mane on this team because it works well with Torkoal. Helping Hand Torkoal enables Flutter Mane super hard, and Flutter Mane here is going to get what she deserves and one shot by the Thunder Punch. Well, not one shot, but it would have one shot me. And now we're gonna bring in Jumpluff the Pampas, the icon, the legend Jumpluff. Shiny Jumpluff with the mark. I got so lucky with that mark. It just fits Jumpluff so well. But here we're gonna go for the Helping Hand Fairy Wind. That's right, we have Fairy Wind on my Jumpluff, which will finish off the Iron Hand. And you might be asking yourself, well, Weedle, why are you using Fairy Wind? Like, isn't that like a weak fairy move? Like, what's the point? You'll see why in the next battle. So hopefully you all enjoyed that first battle against Joker. My next opponent today is packing a pretty cool team. Not many Paradox Pokemon, just the Iron Moth, and a lot of Fairy types as well. So I wasn't too sure what my opponent's plan was for this battle. They're going to lead off with Grimmsnarl and Sylveon, so double Fairy lead. I lead off with my Jumpluff and my Torkoal, which is a very common lead I use with this team just because of the combo that I have set up. So I supposed to go for the Fake Out with Grimmsnarl, which is a big mistake for them because I'm Cobra Cloak, honey, so no surprise Fake Out for you, Grimmsnarl. Go to sleep. So we're able to put the Grimmsnarl to sleep. I was expecting a Light Screen to reflect, but hey, we'll take that as well. They're going to go for a Hyper Voice, and do half to our Jumpluff, but it's okay because we're able to go for the Overheat here with our Torkoal. So we're able to set the Sun with Torkoal, and because of our item on Torkoal, well, the Grimmsnarl randomly has a berry as well, so I've never really seen a Pinch Berry Grimmsnarl. I've seen like the Berry, but never seen a Mago Berry. But we're going to activate our Eject Pack, get a slow pivot out after doing a huge chunk of damage, and now we can bring in either Fluttermane or Great Tusk for free, basically. I decided to bring in my Great Tusk because we're able to activate Photosynthesis, and, we have Jumpluff out on the field, which is a nice support Pokemon with, Rage Powder, Sleep Powder, and Tailwind, but here we don't even have to click Tailwind. We can click Fairy Wind instead, which will activate our Weakness Policy on our Great Tusk, and because of the Photosynthesis giving us a further attack increase as well, this Earthquake is going to obliterate everything. Like, I don't even think Reflect would have saved them here, so we're going to knock both my opponent's Pokemon out with the Stab Earthquake. Photosynthesis plus 2 attack. Jumpluff avoids it because, it's flying in the air. They're going to bring in their Garchomp here, and their last, which is Mimikyu, yeah. And they're actually going to forfeit because they just know that, like, Jumpluff did kind of obliterate them with that Sleep Powder, and then, the Great Tusk Fairy Wind. That is one of the combinations Fairy Wind is for on this team. Let's showcase the other combos. My next opponent today is packing a Perish Trap team from the looks of it. Screamtail, the Fluttermane, and, Gothitelle, basically. So they're going to lead off with Screamtail and Gothitelle, trying to go for the Perish Trap immediately. I'm just going to lead off with Kilowattrel and Jumpluff because I figure I could do some really good offensive damage against this slow team. I mean, I say that as, Screamtail gets speed with Photosynthesis, but it's fine. They're going to go for the Fake Out, making the same mistake as the previous opponent did into my Covert Cloak Jumpluff. And, yeah, we're able to set up the Tailwind and giving us our Wind Power ability. So now we're going to double our Electric type damage with Kilowattrel and go for the Electro Ball, getting a boost from the Tailwind as well, and we're able to one-shot Gothitelle turn 1, which is amazing. They could have faked out into the Kilowattrel, but they were just scared of the utility Jumpluff can throw out with like Sleep Powders and stuff, so hey, we take that closed team sheet gimmick, Covert Cloak Jumpluff. But now they're going to bring in Palafin and then switch out the Palafin to get the 0 to hero thing, which is totally fair. And they're going to bring out their Arcanine here, revealing their last immediately, so they don't even have Fluttermane, which is nice. So they're going to get the Intimidate, which doesn't matter. Sadly, we're not competitive on the Kilowattrel. We're just going for Protect right here to scout out and see what the opponent wants to do. I was expecting like a Jet Punch play where I have double target maybe. I go for the Sleep Powder and I miss the Screamtail, which kind of sucks, but it's okay. They go for Play Rough into my Protect, so we're able to guard ourselves from that. And now I'm thinking I might take an E-Speed, but I should be able to live it, potentially, maybe. They just go for Protect with Screamtail, expecting a Sleep Powder into that again, but instead, I go for the Fairy Wind into my own Kilowattrel, living at 69 HP, so funny. We're going to activate Wind Power, charging up our Electro Ball. Supercharged Electro Ball is going to knock out an Arcanine in one hit. So down goes the Arcanine, Kilowattrel claiming another victim with that Electro Ball, and we're not even specs, like we're magnets, so we're not even like that strong, and that's just Electro Ball's damage potential. Now they're gonna bring in the Palafin, and we're both gonna use our Terastallization here. I'm gonna Terastallize my Kilowattrel, and they're gonna Terastallize their Palafin, and we're both gonna Terastallize into our same type. So Electric, Water, Terastallization, and they're gonna, get redirected with the Rage Powder, because Jumpluff has so much utility between Rage Powder, Sleep Powder, Tailwind, And there's so many support moves on Pokemon, like Encore, dual screens. Like, this Pokemon is very slept on, literally, because Sleep Powder, but you know, like, Jumpluff is just like slay Amoonguss. I love Jumpluff, and this shiny Jumpluff is just so beautiful. And I forgot to mention that Jumpluff is 1 point faster than Modest Kilowattrel. Modest Kilowattrel reaches 349 speed at level 100, and Jumpluff reaches 350 speed. So we're actually just barely faster than Kilowattrel by 1 point, so we can go for the Fairy Winds and get the secondary charge. And here my opponent's gonna forfeit, realizing they got handled by Kilowattrel. So hopefully you all enjoyed that battle featuring the Kilowattrel Wind Power. My next opponent today is packing a Hail-based team, or Snow, sorry, it's Snow now, with, you know, Iron Bundle, Abomasnow, and a bunch of Paradox stuff. So that's my opponent's team. They're going to lead off with their Iron Hands and Flutter Manes. I'm going to lead off with Jumpluff and Torkoal. Like I mentioned, this is a very common lead I use on this team just because it gives you a lot of options between, like, you know, Tailwind, you can go for Sleep Powders, you can, you know, go for Rage Powder and go for attacks with Torkoal. So they're going to Terastallize their Flutter Mane, and I just go for the Tailwind just because even though we're going to double our speed, we're still slower than the Flutter Mane, which is fine because they're going to go for Terastallized Fairy Moonblast, as Jumpluff is able to eat that up, which kind of surprised me because Flutter Mane is kind of crazy. And they're going to go for the Wild Charge here into my Torkoal, do a decent chunk of damage, but we're able to survive. And now we can go for the slow pivot out with the Overheat. Even though we set up the Tailwind, Torkoal is just so slow to where you can actually go for Tailwind and then slow pivot out with Overheat. It's kind of inconsistent because, you know, Overheat can miss, you can get your stats lowered, etc. But it's fine, we're able to slow pivot out, and now we can bring in our Brambleghast. And Wind Rider, unlike Wind Power, it activates if you're sent out onto Tailwind, but Wind Power doesn't work like that. It's kind of weird to explain, but we can go for the Fairy Wind here, getting a second Wind Rider, so now we're at +2 attack. I go for the Terra Blast, fire in the sun. It also stops us from getting burned, and it helps us not die from Shadow Ball. We're gonna one-shot the Iron Hands with the Terra Blast, one-shotting Iron Hands with a physical attack. You're never gonna see that shit again. They're gonna go for a Terra Fury Moonblast here, finishing off my Jumpluff, but it's fine. We're able to get off the Fairy Wind Tailwind +2 attack combo into our Brambleghast. And down goes the Jumpluff. They got their job done though. We're able to bring out our own Flutter Mane here. We still have the Sun active, so we're going to get a special attack increase. We still have the Tailwind active as well. They're going to bring in their Abomasnow here, activating the Snow Warning, so, you know, now they might be able to set up the Aurora Veil if, you know, I didn't have a spread attack in Dazzling Gleam. So Dazzling Gleam's going to finish off their Flutter Mane and do around half to the Abomasnow. And that's without Photosynthesis as well, because they got rid of the sun, so God, Flutter Mane is kind of crazy. But yeah, it's, you know, fair and balanced Pokemon. Now we're able to go for the +2 Terra Blast, and this is probably going to knock out a million Abomasnows. Like, this attack's really strong. Choice Banded as well. I know it seems kind of weird to run Choice Banded with, like, you know, Terra Blast and Shadow Sneak, but Life Orb's already taken on Flutter Mane, and I think Choice Band's actually needed to get the big one-shots, especially when you only get +1 attack from the Tailwind. Like, the Bandit is pretty clutch. They're going to bring in their own Iron Bundle here and get the Quark Drive and Speed from the Boost Your Energy, which is fine because we should be able to just win with Flutter Mane if they knock out Brambleghast, or we can win with Brambleghast and knock out Flutter Mane. So I just go for Substitute. They go for Hydro Pump, and they miss because Hydro Pump is one of the worst moves in the game, which sucks for them as they're able to go for a Terra Fire, Terra Blast, but because of the Snow and Iron Bundle's decent defense, it's actually just barely able to survive. So, you know, Iron Bundle's pretty bulky on the physical side, just like how Flutter Mane's bulky on the special side. And, you know, my opponent's just going to forfeit after missing a Hydro Pump. So we're able to defeat our opponent thanks to Terrifier Brambleghast going in with the Wind Rider. So hopefully you all enjoyed that third combo with the Fairy Wind. My final opponent today is packing a pretty interesting team. So they have Flutter Mane, Iron Bundle, pretty standard, right? But then they have Sableye, Pelipper, so it looks like they have like a rain-based team. Then they have a Magnezone and Sandy Shock, which is kind of funny to see. So they have like the past form of Magnezone. Sandy Shock's is Magneton, which is kind of weird. So I actually have a question of the day. Which Pokemon would you like to see get a Paradox form in the future or past? It could be like an unreleased Pokemon as well. My answer to the question is probably Flygon. People wanted to see Flygon get a Mega Evolution. That's not happening. So the next best thing at this point, besides a regional form, is a Paradox form, which is basically a Mega Evolution. And then they can buff Flygon's special attack stat as well as attack. They can make it have more mix potential. And I don't know, Flygon definitely deserves a buff after all the power creep it's been through. All it's gotten in return is like Dragon Dance. Like, okay. And while you think about your answer, let's get into the final battle. So I did save the best battle for last just because like so much funny stuff happens in this battle, and I gotta reward y'all who watch until the end of the video because you're the real ones. So I'm gonna lead off with Jumpluff and my Torkoal because this is a pretty safe lead against most stuff. If you don't know exactly what the opponent's gonna lead, a Jumpluff Torkoal gives you a fair amount of options. Like you can go for Tailwind, Slow Pivot out with Overheat, you can go for Fast Sleep Powder, and outspeed even Quark Drive Iron Bundle just because of the Chlorophyll speed boost. Like, you can actually surpass the speed power creep just because Chlorophyll Jumpluff is just that fast. So Jumpluff's actually better in this meta than it was in the previous meta, in my opinion. Even though Icy Wind's pretty common, like, that's where Wind Rider comes in, right? So they're gonna go for the Icy Wind here, Speak of the Devil. And because they brought in Pelipper to get the weather control, they're actually able to outspeed my Jumpluff before I go for the Tailwind, which kind of sucks for me. But it's okay because I still get the slow pivot out with my Torkoal. I just don't get to do any chip damage with the Overheat, but it's okay because I don't have any sashes to break on the Iron Bundle, so it's not a big deal. Gonna bring in Brambleghast here, and I'm gonna go for the Tailwind here, which will give us the Wind Rider ability. And I was kind of scared, but I'm like, no, they can't resist the urge to click Icy Wind. I know, like, they don't know what Brambleghast does, even though it just showed what the ability does. They're not gonna know, even though this is like top 100 Master Ball Elo. Like, they're not gonna know better. So I just go for the Shadow Sneak here. I bring in my Brambleghast in case, or I bring in my Torkoal just in case they want to go for Water Text into Brambleghast. But they go for the Icy Wind. They couldn't resist, giving us another Wind Rider boost. And Torkoal's going to switch into this Icy Wind, and it's going to, take it reasonably well. And now the opponent is going to click Hurricane as well, giving us another Wind Rider boost. And Hurricane also would have likely missed if they targeted into Torkoal, just because Sun makes Hurricane 50% accuracy. So now I'm going to switch back into my Jumpluff, expecting maybe another Hurricane into the Torkoal slots. And now I just go for the Shadow Sneak here into the Iron Bundle to finish it off. They don't protect or anything like that, thankfully, so we're able to knock out the Iron Bundle. And they can't really do damage to the Brambleghast with Pelipper. Like, what are they going to do? Hurricane or go for, a Sun Hydro Pump, which is exactly what they do, but they actually go into the Jumpluff slot, which kind of sucks because I kind of stack up my Jumpluff for nothing. And Jumpluff was definitely more useful at that point than the Torkoal, but it's okay. Going to bring back in the Torkoal, and they're going to bring back in, or they're going to bring out their own Flutter Mane. So in comes Flutter Mane, but I do have the Shadow Sneak. Like, Flutter Mane, even if it is Focus Sash, I can actually Terrasilize here and avoid the Shadow Ball super effective damage if I want to. So they're going to switch out with the Pelipper here because they want to retain the weather rain control. And they're going to bring in their Sandy Shocks, which is also going to get Photosynthesis. So Sun is actually like a double-edged sword because you can actually indirectly, boost the opponent's Paradox Pokemon, but you got to make the best of a bad situation. Because Shadow Sneak's just going to outspeed the Flutter Mane, bring it down to its Focus Sash. It is a Sash Flutter Mane because the Iron Bundle was, boost energy. This should have been kind of obvious, but yeah, they're going to go for the Shadow Ball, but because of the Terrasilize Fire with the Brambleghast, we're just barely able to survive that Shadow Ball. And now I can go for the Heat Wave here. Yeah, I go for the Heat Wave and just finish off the Flutter Mane and do a good chunk of damage to the Sandy Shocks. And yeah, down goes Flutter Mane, and we can just go for another Shadow Sneak into the opponent. Our Tailwind's going to wear out, but it's okay because Shadow Sneak, even though, like, Shadow Sneak's a priority move, so Tailwind running out doesn't matter. In comes the Pelipper to get, the rain set up, but it's okay. I don't really care about Sun at this point. Sun wasn't really a big deal. It was mostly just to reduce the water damage on my opponent's side. Gonna go for the Helping Hand Shadow Sneak as they go for Wide Guard, expecting like Heat Wave again for some reason. Like, Torkoal isn't scary. Like, what? I go for Shadow Sneak +3, I think. Helping Hand boosted is gonna one-shot the Pelipper with a pretty high physical defense stat. Pelipper just gets knocked out by the Shadow Sneak. They go for the Earth Power, finally finishing Brambleghast. So Brambleghast got 3 KOs, I think. Actually, no, I only got 2 KOs because, Torkoal took one of those kills, but I basically got 3 kills. And now we're going to bring out our last, which is the Great Tusk. And Great Tusk is very strong against Sandy Shocks. Like, it's a ground type versus a ground electric type. So yeah, I just go for the Headlong Rush, I think. Yeah, I don't even know why I'm taking so long here, but yeah, they actually DC on me. They rage quit. So they actually rage quit. They could not handle the Wind Rider. It was too much for them, and they actually rage quit the game. I figure I saved that for the last battle just because rage quits are funny, and that Wind Rider, like double Wind Rider in one turn, was kind of iconic. So hopefully you all enjoyed the Wind Rider and Wind Power team. And here is the Roundsel code if you want to use this team yourself. It is a very fun team to use, and it's actually decently viable. Some combos I wanted to mention that I didn't feature too much in this video. For one, I just wanted to mention that Torkoal plus Flutter Mane can just win games by itself. Helping Hand, Terra Fairy, Life Orb, Special Attack, Boost with Photosynthesis. Like, you know, it's just so much damage, more than Geomancy Xerneas. All that's really required is the sun being up and helping hand from Torkoal, which, hey, that's exactly what happens when you lead off with them turn 1. That's nice. The only thing that could really backfire there is if they lead with Intimidate, because the Eject Pack will activate before Drought activates. There's also just plenty of leads you can do with this team, like Torkoal with Jumpluff is nice, Jumpluff with Kilowattrel, Jumpluff with Fluttermane, because you can go for the Sleep Powder substitute, Rage Powder substitute. Like, Fluttermane, if it gets up a substitute, like, it's such a bad position for your opponent just because Fluttermane is so strong. Yeah, Jumpluff also combos well with Brambleghast as the lead. You can go for Fairy Wind, Phantom Force, Tailwind as the second hit of Phantom Force. Hits with +2 attack choice span, you're just gonna one-shot basically anything with that combination. My Torkoal is Terra Flying. It seems very strange, and it is kind of strange for me, but I was just trying to make this rental code, and I was like, hey, let's mess around with Terra Flying Torkoal, because you can actually go for Helping Hand next to Great Tusk, go for the plus attack, Photosynthesis Earthquakes. Great Tusk can actually get weakness policy off quite often even without Fairy Wind. Physical attacks, it can just eat up super well, and then Fluttermane can take special attacks reasonably well, so they have a decent combination together. And if you have any other questions about this team, leave them in the comments down below. Export for this team will be in the description. Make sure to join my Discord server if you have a Discord account and like Pokemon and just want a place to hang out and just have a good time. Our link will be in the description. It is free to join. But yeah, thank you so much for watching until the end of the video. I love you all very, very much, and I'll check you all in my next video.